Hello and hello. Happy Thursday to you. Thank you so much for joining us today. I was just watching the intro to the show and I was like, remember Greg and I were in t-shirts? It looks like so much warmer. It's like cold now. Can't believe it's Thanksgiving next week. Well, welcome to In the Loop. I am Winnie's son and I'm going to be joined with the amazing Greg Nibbler in just a second. But for those of you who are new to the show, welcome to the show. I'm a longtime financial pro, CNBC council member, Forbes contributor, and host also of Level Up, which can be found on NASDAQ, Amazon Fire, Roku, and I believe Samsung now as well. So if you're on any of those platforms, those apps, definitely check it out. And of course, Twitter powerhouse extraordinaire. Greg, how are you today?
Twitter for now. We'll see what happens in the next month. But I am doing good. It is so good to see you. I know I was watching that intro too. Like one thing, it looks amazing. And also I did kind of have a tan at one point for me. And then I'm like, yeah, I haven't seen the sun in a long time. But it is great to be here with everybody. Thanks for joining us. For anybody who doesn't know, my name is Greg Nibbler, longtime tech reporter, covering all kinds of things in the world of tech, but mostly I like to talk about the fun things. Sometimes there's other stuff, and I've got some fun things, I think, today that we can discuss. So I'm looking forward to seeing the comments come through. It's always so good to see everybody joining us here, whether you're live or whether you're watching afterward. We just appreciate it because it's so much fun. Winnie, it's always so much fun being here with you.
It's always so much fun. It's so much fun to be here with you, Greg. And yeah, absolutely. And talk about tech reporter being the biggest understatement of who you are, Greg. Greg is a powerhouse. By the way, he didn't mention this, but I met him when he was like big shot reporter on digital trends. And I was just like, oh, I get to be with Greg today and be interviewed by him. And I know you work for the NBA and everywhere else. But yeah, it's such a treat to be with everybody today. Can't believe it's Thanksgiving next week, Greg. Like,
I know.
This came out of nowhere. Did it come out of nowhere for you?
It's weird. I mean, I know I say that probably every year around this time, but it really does feel like 2022 is blown by. Like it doesn't feel like it's even started yet, but it's already, Thanksgiving next week. That is crazy.
It's crazy. There.
Yeah.
It's so crazy.
Feels weird. And there's way too many Christmas commercials for me. I don't think you should be able to do it until after Thanksgiving, then go into it. But, it already started before Halloween. So
I know. I feel like they start selling this Christmas stuff like literally after Mother's Day. It feels like that early.
Yeah.
But
right.
It's crazy. Let's say a quick hello to Vicky Garvey joining us on YouTube Live. Thank you so much, Vicky, for being here and always being such supportive of the show. And yes, we are so great to see. So excited to have you with us today, of course. But let's start with the market and then we'll move to really fun things. To be honest with you, I always wonder sometimes if we're going to start the show and Greg's going to pop up in like full on robot gear. I just feel like that's going to happen one day. Who knows? Maybe.
I'll have to work on that. We'll get a Robo Greg outfit going.
That would be cool. All right. So let's start with the market. Unfortunately, some not so good news, triple down day, but there is a little bit of good news. It was a triple down day, but it wasn't down that much. The Dow was only down 7.51 points. NASDAQ down about 38 points and the S&P down about 12 points as well. This is that time of the year where the end of the year is in the financial industry. We call it layoff season. And this year, let me just tell you, it is all about the layoffs. In fact, we're hearing layoffs in the tech industry broadly. I'm sure, I know Greg follows technology for us every week, and I'm sure he's actually reading a lot of financial news into his tech news because of all the layoffs. Yes. But the big news today, Greg, I'm sure you saw, this was totally hardcore, okay? Elon Musk says that Twitter employees have to decide how hard they want to work by today, 5 p.m. Eastern time, which, Greg, I guess we're like at 2:38 p.m. our time, which means like in the next 20 minutes, if you're still at Twitter, you got to decide if you're okay with this like hardcore like work. Did you read this?
Yeah, it's just crazy. I've been doing a bunch of reporting on the layoffs this week, but I mean, Twitter being its own animal, it just seems like such a backwards way to go about it to me. But I mean, that's what Elon Musk does. He has his own way of going about things. But I mean, it's like you're threatening your employees. Like, I mean, then he really is like threatening them. You either agree to do this and work all these extra hours and on all of that, or, you're out of here. And it seems like a strange way. And I wonder, what the actual fallout's going to be. Like how many Twitter employees are just going to say, nope, I'm gone, and take the 3-month severance and just leave. What the fallout is, because it's also kind of hard right now too, because there are all those other layoffs. So maybe if this was a a robust time where there's lots of opportunities, maybe more people would just say, well, I'm out of here. But right now, with the uncertainty and of getting another job, maybe people will stick around for it. But yeah, it's a wild way to go about things, which is, like I said, everything he does is just crazy. I
It's
mean, it just
bizarre.
seems crazy.
It seems you're right, Greg. It does seem crazy, and it's interesting because literally, we talk about financial tech news. Literally, it felt like almost only about 6 months ago when we were hearing about how companies were hiring like crazy.
Yeah.
In the beginning of the year, hiring like crazy. The pandemic, people are starting to get back to normal, going back to the workplace. So people are hiring, and the salaries were going higher, and this whole thing about quiet quitting and all this stuff. And now Twitter has already announced, almost a 50% layoff. And then he's saying that in order to build this new Twitter 2.0, employees have to make a decision. Are they going to go all in, right? And they're going to have to work longer hours and just put up to help build this like mega company into something even bigger for Twitter 2.0,
Yeah.
or effectively you can go and you might get a 3 month severance, but you need to go. And this is like, Elon is like all over financial news. I'm sure it's all over tech news. It's like he is like the Donald Trump of like the financial tech news right now, because
Yeah.
not only are we talking about what's happening at Twitter, but there's still more news coming out of SpaceX as well. SpaceX engineers, this was also announced today, that they actually, had this open letter they have produced talking about their dissatisfaction with Elon, and they were basically told, well, if you're not happy with how Elon does things, then you need to go, and you will go, and you will lose your employment, and that's just the way it is. You're going to get fired. And so, in this time where we're trying to come together and practice empathy and make sure that we have good relationships between employer and employee, it seems like Elon just wants to take us back 10, 15 years when really employees didn't have much of a voice. uh,
No.
this
Yeah.
is crazy.
It
Mhm.
is. I mean, it doesn't seem like he cares either. Which, I mean, that's the other thing. Like, you want somebody to check you in that. That's how things get better. Like, sometimes you may be right, you may be wrong, but he seems to be, if it's not exactly how he says it, then somebody has to go. I mean, even reading those reports where he was going through the company's Slack channels and like finding anybody that said anything negative about him and then just firing them just like that. I mean, it doesn't seem like that's good for business. Granted, he is the richest man in the world, so clearly he knows how to make money. But that seems pretty counterintuitive. Like, you want a bunch of different ideas and sometimes, a little bit of feedback, even if it's negative feedback toward the boss, like saying, this is a better way to go about things. But I don't know. It's Elon's world.
Yeah, that it is absolutely Elon's world. In fact, there was a
Yeah.
tweet that was shared out by Marina Corn that I saw on Twitter today, and she pulled a quote in her tweet that said, one employee was told by his manager, who had eagerly shared the open letter with coworkers, this is the SpaceX letter, to choose between his workplace concerns and getting to Mars. Like, I feel like most business owners or established business owners will probably agree with me when I say this, because I've been a business owner for quite some time and I've had employees for a very long time. Your dream is not necessarily your employee's dream. So you started, this is your dream. You want your employees to participate. You give them ownership, you pay them fairly, you take good care of them. But you also, if your employees are happy and they're well cared for and they have job satisfaction, they tend to be more productive. And
Yeah.
I feel like Elon Musk, like, you're right, he needs someone to check him, because I'm not sure if Mark Zuckerberg was like that, but I feel like at least he had Sheryl Sandberg, who really understood the concept of leaning in, that degree of empathy where you're building a company of that special culture where people actually enjoy going to work. It wasn't that
Yeah.
long ago when I was at Twitter, and beautiful campus, like they had like the like amazing buffet. They had all these living walls with plants all over, and on the rooftop of the Twitter building was this like open space and like a little mini golf court. I mean, they really embrace the whole Silicon Valley, work life quality, happy work life or work location, just like a lot of silicon companies like Facebook and Google have and Apple have. But this is pretty hardcore. So I'm seeing that word used a lot with Elon, that he is hardcore. But
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean,
Yeah.
it whatever's going to happen. I mean, I imagine we're going to start finding out here later this afternoon more news about how many people actually left or not. But then also his
Mhm.
internal message that he sent out to all the employees saying like we could be going bankrupt within a couple of months and
Great.
need all this. But then when you're threatening advertisers for not advertising, it's just like it's this cycle, where it's just
Mhm.
like kind of seems like it's spinning out of control
Yeah.
that he's largely creating himself.
And
I
and
mean,
you, Greg, you make a good point. I mean, you make a great point about like, going bankrupt and whatnot. And I think we've seen in the midterm election as well, is that the next generation, being it millennials, Gen Zers, they want to support companies and places that have quality culture, that take good care of their employees, that take good thing
yeah,
do good things for the environment. I see Vicky saying anti-bullying as well. I see Mike joining us from YouTube. Mike, thank you so much for joining us on YouTube, like saying the electric cars is not so good for working people because after the battery is dead, the new battery, I guess, is a very large cost there. In fact, I saw Charlie Munger, I think it was, who is a longtime partner of Warren Buffett, financial investing guru. I think he was just recently quoted saying that creating Teslas or electric vehicles via Tesla was like a minor miracle. So, I mean, I think we got to give credit where credit is due.
for
Certainly,
sure.
Elon created some amazing vehicles, right? But there's just because you do one thing well doesn't mean you do everything well. And I guess he had a meeting with the SEC recently. This was in the news too. And he actually said that this was sort of transition, and his plan is not to always be the CEO of Twitter. This is like a sort of a transition. What is he going to do? This company, he's going to keep on letting go of employees and whatnot. And one thing I noticed, Greg, I don't know if you noticed, but when you tweet, I noticed since during our tweet chat yesterday, typically if I add Greg, then you, my co-host here, Greg, will be like the
Yeah,
first person that pops up. All I have to do is GR and Greg Nibbler will pop up because you're the
yeah.
person I tweet the most of Greg, right? That doesn't happen now. Now
It's not
it's like,
really.
now I'm like at G, I gotta like literally type out your whole
Pulling up
name.
Twitter right now, looking at that.
It's
Yeah.
weird. Yeah.
Uh,
So weird stuff is happening with Twitter.
well, I mean, when you get rid of the majority of people who work on all that stuff, if there's a bug, it's probably not going to get
Mhm.
fixed.
I know. And he took a picture yesterday, I think he shared on Twitter, where he brought back two of the employees that he let go. And one of them looks so miserable. It was a funny picture. I should have shared it, but I forgot.
Oh yeah, I think I know what that one was. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that might have been part of an inside joke that he was doing too of those two guys.
I don't
Yeah,
know if you want to make jokes around your employees. That's like that your
no,
employees' well-being. I mean, that's just like, don't do that. If you want to run a good company, you gotta take good care of your employees. I mean,
yeah,
and you only got one life, but be a nice person. But anyway, let's
yeah,
continue on because there's more. Because
yes,
it's total layoff season right now, and so Amazon, Amazon already reported that they're doing layoffs, which is really interesting because of course Jeff Bezos was like seemed like just last week he was the richest man on the planet too, and I guess he has this cruise ship or this boat or yacht that is the size of a cruise ship that actually cities have to move their bridges just so he can go through them. He's that wealthy. But he did say that he's going to start to give away his wealth, which interesting. Timing is interesting because also he's laying off a bunch of, or his company is, I should say, laying off a bunch of employees, and they're going to be offering a bunch of voluntary severance packages. Let me just say, as someone who's helped many, many people go through layoffs, voluntary severance package is just a sort of a softer, nicer layoff. You're basically giving some people some money so that they can transition away from your company, and then you usually have them sign some sort of document saying that you're not going to pursue legal damages in the future if you take this severance money. So as you know that Amazon is of course reporting their biggest company layoff of over 10,000 employees. They now have until November 29th also to accept these severance buyouts. So crazy times. If you thought the holidays were stressful, let me tell you, being a tech employee right now is truly, truly special. Morning Brew laying off about 14% of their staff as well. Roku is also laying off people. Cisco is also expected to lay off people as well. But here's the thing, is this like a little shining bit of brightness? I don't know. I'll let you be the judge of that. But you know who is hiring and who is actually looking at some of these employees at Facebook or Meta is laying off and everybody else? TikTok. TikTok says, you know what? We are going to be hiring because we don't make that mistake that a lot of companies do when they hire a bunch of people and then they lay off a whole bunch of people. It just seems like at some point they should stop that cycle. But let me tell you, as someone who's been in the financial industry for quite a long time, that's sort of the trend. The beginning, the first 6 months, people they hire a whole bunch of people that think business is great, life is fantastic, and they make so much profitability, and then come at the end of the year, they lay so many people off, sometimes even more that they brought in. But yeah, so that's what's happening. And so the CEO of TikTok, I think last name is Chu, said that they managed it much better, and they said, quote unquote, the way we are organized is one where we don't have to lay off half of the workforce to achieve efficiency levels that we want to achieve. So yeah. If you thought that just because CEOs made a lot more money and made bigger decisions and worked at these big publicly traded companies, that they in fact were smarter than everybody else, I think this has just shown that they might not be, because then, yeah,
Yeah.
it's just that's one thing. But I do have some good news, because I like to end on a good note here before I pass the baton over to Greg. And this is sort of good news and sort of not good news, but you can take what you want from it, because today, my friends, is also Starbucks's annual Red Cup Day. Now, if you don't know about Red Cup Day, this is a day where you can drive through the Starbucks, or go into Starbucks, and you can get your free red cup. And I guess this cup, you can get refills and all that stuff. I'm not a Starbucks person. I don't drink caffeine, so I'm not really their target market. So I don't really know how this, but I do know that my husband has so many of these Starbucks red cups. So if you are interested, do know that's available today, all day, for a free red cup. But just as a warning, and this is why I meant positive and negative, well, Starbucks is also, their union is also protesting and picketing at about 100 locations. Now, 100 locations might sound like a lot, but if you actually look at the map of where they're protesting, it's very, very small. So it might not even affect your area. So I was like, maybe just, if you want to do this, maybe just do drive through instead. But yeah,
Get a red cup.
get a red cup.
Well, that's
All
good.
right.
That is something that people can go.
That's something, Greg, right?
Right.
But I know you're going to bring us good news, so I'm excited to hear what you have to share.
Well, I've got some things that I think are exciting that we can talk about. And the first one I wanted to bring up is something that actually we've been talking about it here on this show for months and months. I brought it up, and then they kept pushing it back and changing it. And it is the Artemis 1 launch. The SLS rocket from NASA finally went up. I don't know if people have seen the footage yet or followed along with that, but this is the basically the start of the entire program that's going to bring humans back to the moon. And this launch happened on, let's see, what was that? Tuesday night when it actually launched, or Wednesday morning, depending on where you were. But it was so cool to finally see it go off, because you never know what's going to happen with these launches. Lots of things could go wrong. That's why they had it delayed so long. I mean, there was a hurricane that delayed it at one point, but it is up. It's out there right now. So this is a huge rocket, this SLS launch system. So, I mean, it's taller than the Statue of Liberty. Whoa. And on the very end of it, it was the Orion capsule. And that's what's actually out there right now. So the Orion capsule is where the humans are going to be in, whoever these astronauts are, whenever they choose them for the eventual mission. But it's set up just like it would be for them. But they've got some dummies in there. They've got a bunch of science tests that are going on, a bunch of things that are happening inside the capsule itself. And they're sending it around the moon. So it's going on this huge, I think it's like 280,000 mile trip, somewhere in that range, that's going to go around the moon and then eventually come back to Earth, I think around December 11th or so. But yeah, really, really cool to finally see it get going. So this is just like the first one. If this one's completely successful, the next one will have people on it, the Artemis 2. So that's, this is kind of the big test to see if it'll work for humans to finally take those steps to go back to the moon.
This one seems like a cool ship to be on, Greg. I feel like this one has your name all over it, right? This looks like you said, it's bigger. If it's that big, it's probably pretty comfortable.
So the capsule itself is bigger than the other ones, but mainly that's the rocket. The rocket is huge, but the capsule is just kind of sitting on the tip of it there.
Okay.
And I believe it'll carry 4 astronauts when they do go back to the moon, or even when they send it out for the next one, because the next launch will be within a couple of years, and that's when they'll actually send people around the moon and back. And then I believe it's the third and fourth one when we start getting into actually getting onto the moon. Yeah, I mean, this is pretty cool.
Vicky wants you to have she wants you to have your ticket. And Greg, I'm with Vicky.
Oh,
We hope you get your ticket. And yeah, and Vicky, yeah, so no pink cup, only red cup. I saw that message. Thank you.
I would like to go on this, but I think they want like actual scientists and astronauts on this one since it's NASA. So, but I would be happy to be there to document them. So if NASA, if you need just an extra person who's hanging around videoing everything, I'm down to be that person.
So Greg, is it leaving out of Dallas, or is it? I mean, Houston. I'm saying sorry, or is it leaving out of Orlando or Florida?
This was Florida. Yep, at Kennedy Space Center.
Kennedy Space Center. Yeah.
That's why, because they had brought it out in the last hurricane. They had to kind of scrap everything and put it back in. But we didn't even know if it was going to get delayed this time. But it was successful, so it's up there right now. And there's lots of really cool footage you can take a look at on NASA's website, and they've got a lot of videos and pretty cool images there of Earth, as it's out there. Orion is now flying free, so pretty fun stuff to see where it's all going. So I was really excited about that. Yeah, I stayed up and watched that much. So
you
that
were
was
geeking out.
Yes, totally. So that was pretty fun this week. I've got a couple other things that are kind of in the vehicle range, but before I do that, there was an update. I just want to make sure people know, if you have an iPhone, in particular the iPhone 14 line, at least for now, there is a new service that Apple has for emergency phone calls. So even if this will work, whether even if you're out of Wi-Fi, you're out of cell service, it will connect you with the satellite if you are having an emergency, and it will send a message that if you need help. Like you go in there, they said you have to fill out like a quick survey they'll have to, I think, kind of ascertain what your problem is, and they'll send that anyway. So I think that's really great for anybody who goes out into the wilderness, or if you're a camper and you worry about, if something went wrong, you fall down or whatever could happen, you can still get a message out and get some help, which that is great as far as I'm concerned. I love this.
This is great. We love this. And I know my producer, Curtis, and we have the new phone. And that was actually a big selling point for me, because we do a lot of road trips. And one of the road trips I really wanted to do at some point is a road trip from here in Southern California up to Alaska. And I heard of several pockets where there's literally no signal, which is a little nerve-wracking, right?
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of segments with no service up there. Yeah, I've been out to those areas. You can go a long ways without getting any service, so this would be really helpful.
No, Greg, I feel like you need to get one.
I know.
You go.
Keeps adding up. It keeps adding up. I'm pretty happy with my S22, but I don't know. We'll have to see. But that service now too extends to. So I want to make sure it's going into France, Germany, Ireland, and the UK in December. So that's going to be coming over there as well. But then I imagine it'll spread out from there. But that's a cool update there for iPhone users, not for Samsung users. But going on from there, I do have just a couple other things that I thought really interesting to talk about. And first one has to do with on-the-ground transportation from Waymo, and an announcement they have about some new hardware that they're using, and it's some new abilities they have with their tech to basically turn their vehicles into little weather stations. Now, if you don't know what Waymo is a subsidiary of Alphabet, of Google, and it's their push to create essentially robot cars, autonomous vehicles that will get robot taxis that'll come and pick you up. I think if you're in Phoenix right now, you can actually use them. And the key thing there is Phoenix has them because their weather is very predictable. You pretty much know what the weather is going to be like in Phoenix every day. However, other places, it's not like that. Like San Francisco, the Pacific Northwest, you could have rain one day, could be sunny, could be ice, could be all kinds of different things. In San Francisco, a lot of fog, obviously. So they were trying to figure out how to work that in with their cars. Because right now they use LiDAR, radar, cameras, but that really doesn't help out the autonomous software if the road is slick or these different various conditions that can happen. And they said that weather stations usually are coming from like one particular place, like the airport. So it doesn't give that hyper local information down to like where you're at in a street, in a city, on a hill, or whatever it is. So they've added in the ability now for their windshields to detect raindrops and precipitation on them, and they send that data into the cloud with all of the other weather information they have, to where they're using all these vehicles to essentially create a weather map, like a real-time weather map of road conditions. And they say that's going to really help out all of these autonomous vehicles to be able to drive in these other conditions, like San Francisco, which is where they're demonstrating this. So I think that's an interesting advancement to see where that's going. I mean, and also looking at the possibility of what else can you use that information for. Like if you can get that kind of specific weather information, I would think there's a lot of other things that can be used for as well. But kind of cool stuff there from Waymo, just seeing how they're able to do that.
That's really cool. And Vicky is actually saying, bring that technology into the UK, please. I love that. Now that we've had internet for all these years, there's so much more technology and data sharing, like real-time
Yeah.
data sharing. And it's nice to see them using that in safety features, so that people can make decisions, or even machines can make decisions on the fly.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. So the machines are going to know a little bit more about what's going on and how to handle that kind of thing. Yeah. So that's pretty fascinating stuff. And I'm sure that there's a lot of other companies working on, robotic taxis. Maybe they have some other things out there, but Google, with just their vast amount of information they already have, you combine maps and their weather maps, and now you add in this. I'm as cool as it is with the cars. I'm kind of excited to see what they're going to do with all that data, because there's so many other uses you can have for it.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see where that goes. But yeah, that's what
that is really cool.
All right, I've got one final one that, Winnie, I think you're going to be excited about, and I think everybody will be. Now, I've talked a lot about these before, and that is the electric vertical takeoff and landing vehicles, and I'm talking about flying taxis. These giant drone-looking machines, and that's really kind of what this one is built off of, is like drone technology, just a giant one where you can carry people. So this is coming from a company called Archer Aviation. They just released this. I believe this just came out today, actually. They just unveiled this. It's called the Midnight, Archer Midnight. That's the name of the vehicle. And they believe this is going to be the future of commuting. And the example they're using for that is New York. So they're claiming that you can get a 10-minute flight in this they use Newark Airport for an example, Newark in New Jersey. It will take you 10 minutes to get to downtown New York. It'll cost $100. That they can get you from there to downtown New York. Now, if you've never been to New York, that's a long commute to go from Newark to downtown. Even if you're taking a train, whatever it is, it takes a lot of time. Or if you're taking a taxi or an Uber, it can get expensive too. So this is what they're saying in 2025 is when they believe they'll be able to have these out. That this is where it's going to start.
Oh my goodness, sign me up all day long for that. I can't wait to take that thing for sure, because you're right. From Newark, usually we don't fly Newark as often just because of all the traffic coming out of Newark. But I really like Newark Airport, and I like the planes that fly into Newark. So you're right. I mean, 10 minutes is unheard of. I mean, there's been times where I've been on certain television shows like CNBC, for example. They're always so nice. They always send a town car to pick me up, and that town car, the cost, I'm sure, is like in the hundreds. And you're stuck in traffic for at least 45 minutes. So it's a big deal. Yeah.
And this would be a way to get around all of that. For some reason, Portland flights, anytime I go to New York, it always sends me to Newark. So it must be something about here where the flights go. But because I think this is usually United. But yeah, that's, $100 in traveling in New York, like you said, like a town car is hundreds of dollars. An Uber ride to the airport, I think
at least probably like
I remember looking, it was close to 100 to even do that, to go to the airport when I was, and I took the train instead, and that took forever to do that.
Yeah.
So 10 minutes, $100, like same as sitting in traffic for all that time. Yeah.
This is for sure 2025. I'm putting that in my calendar, Greg. And I said, welcome, of course, CrossX Fighter joining us on YouTube Live. Take a look at that. A drone transportation from Newark Airport into Manhattan. Oh my goodness. I feel like, Greg, I think the problem is going to be that they're going to have a whole section of Newark Airport for this. And, Newark already has trouble getting you onto an Uber. I can't imagine the line that will be for this. Like, it's just, the income level in New York is so high that I can't imagine you're going to have an easy time getting on one of these things.
Yeah, I bet it's going to be booked up for
Hmm.
months in advance. When it first comes out. But that's the other thing they were talking about, just the projections of these types of vehicles. Because there's so many other companies that are working on this style of travel, and like the projections are within the next decade that there's going to be hundreds of thousands of
Good.
these all over the place.
Hmm.
The biggest, I think, hurdle, like the tech is really getting there pretty close. The
Hmm.
biggest thing is going to be legislation and getting
Right.
FAA
Air traffic
approval and
control, right? Hmm.
yeah, air traffic control, and just
Hmm.
testing to make sure, are there enough safety systems? If
Right.
the autonomous software goes down, can you hack these things?
What are you going to do? Yeah.
What are the safety measures? But otherwise, I mean, the tech is pretty much there.
Tick is
To use these.
incredible. I mean, if we could like, if we could get one from where I'm at to LAX, oh goodness, that'd be amazing. Or, there's been a lot of talk for years about having something like that between Las Vegas and Los Angeles, which
Yeah.
is typically a 4 or 5 hour flight. So let's say you could do that in half an hour or 45 minutes. Like that would be absolutely incredible. And it looks like most of these vehicles, Greg, are electric powered, right?
Yeah.
So that's great. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see. So we're gonna have to get used to seeing things in the sky, I think, because we've been
Yeah.
kind of used to seeing like blue skies because there's not a lot of stuff going on except for those big commercial airplanes, which fly so incredibly much higher than us. Would that
Yeah.
mean that we're gonna be like those Jetson TV shows where you actually see planes in a closer distance? At
Yeah.
what that will look like, people probably won't like to see that. I'm guessing.
Yeah. I mean, that's going to be a big change. I think in the next few years, you're going to see that a lot more between these things and also drone deliveries, which are finally
Mhm.
starting to roll out in a bigger way. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of stuff flying over us, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of backlash about that as well, of getting used to that. But this is where it's going. I mean, I think one of the biggest things that people will have issues with are how loud are they. If these things are going to
Yes.
be really loud flying all over, that's going
Or
to
they're
be
gonna
a
be
big
silent
problem.
like my Tesla. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
if they're reasonable, Greg, how cool would that be? Like eventually you can just have one and then park it in your backyard and then
yeah.
charge it up.
That would
Let's
be cool.
go.
Yeah, I'm down with that. But then again, though, if there were 100 of them all within like a few blocks of me, maybe that would get a little annoying.
Yeah.
Hearing the noise of that. But yeah, that's where it's heading. So I mean, again, just one of like a bunch of companies that are working on that stuff. But I thought that one was pretty cool, and it just came out today. Looking at how that's going to change.
Super
So
cool.
yep, something we're going to have to all get used to, I think.
Yeah, that will be really cool. I love that. I mean, like not having to deal with traffic and traffic
Yeah,
lights and
10
everything
minutes to
else.
downtown for that. I mean, that's
That's
just the first place they're going.
crazy.
Yeah,
Yes. Like I had shared with you, Greg, before, like it wasn't that long ago. We were in New York and we literally, it took us 45 minutes or more to go to 2 blocks in Times Square. So
yeah.
this would be such a breath of fresh air. Where would they even park this? I guess it would,
On
I would have,
tops of buildings, probably.
oh,
I think is
wow.
what they're looking at. So they turn certain buildings would turn into to having a landing pad on top of them.
Maybe Grand Central Station right on top of that.
Maybe, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, but or Madison Square Garden or something. I don't know.
Oh,
Somewhere,
that'd be
yeah,
cool.
yeah, something with enough space on there. But yeah, pretty interesting stuff. So I thought that was a good one to bring out today.
Yeah, you're like, oh, you know what? I feel like today, I really feel like going to get cookies in Manhattan, and you're just like, psh, 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 easy,
Yep.
easy.
Yeah. Also, this makes me want to go back to New York. Very bad.
Yeah. And speaking of which, I should have brought this up. I didn't include this in our segment today. That reminds me. I just saw, Greg, yesterday, this week actually, in fact, it was announced Frontier Airlines is doing this deal as a kind of a crazy deal where you can buy a whole year starting next May, a whole year of like what they consider unlimited travel for $5.99 on Frontier Airlines.
What?
So speaking
What do you
of
mean
interest,
unlimited travel? Like you just get free tickets for?
you can fly like there. I guess there are certain. It's kind of like like a Disneyland pass. There are certain weeks where there'll be blackouts. But oh, let's see. Of course, Curtis is so quick.
Yeah, I'm
So
like,
I
thank you,
just
Curtis.
saw
I was
this.
going to try to Google
I
it on
know
the
he's
side.
amazing. It's called Go Wild, right? It's all you can fly, and Frontier is offering this,
What?
and it's very limited. So you know. I just found out about it this week, so this is very, very fresh. But basically, you can fly all year for $5.99. So Frontier typically flies out of like smaller airports in any area, but like for example, here in Southern California, they fly out of two or three different airports, so it's actually very conducive and location wise pretty good. And they fly all over many parts of the United States plus Puerto Rico. So if you compare that to like most flights in the United States now, you're probably looking at least 250, if not, to $400 for a round trip ticket.
Yeah.
So if you have flexibility, maybe you and your plus one could each get one and just take the year and just go have fun, right? Just go and fly to all sorts of different places. I
Yeah.
thought that was pretty interesting. It did give me pause. Like I literally had to think about it a little bit, but yeah.
Huh. I am very curious about this to see. That's interesting because I know Frontier is here in Portland, and there's a lot of like, I believe they
There
do a
are
lot of the
flights.
smaller flights to like Montana and
Mm-hmm.
BC and stuff like that. Just hop out for a weekend. Yeah.
You can fly, and then Greg, and I believe Frontier is based. I think they're based out of Denver, and what's so you could like literally go Denver, go skiing or go mountain biking for the weekend, and just like treat it like your
Yeah.
Airbus, right?
Yeah.
And just take the year and just document and like do all. I feel like Greg, you could take, you would just take your podcast equipment, pack it in your backpack, and go. And
I'm
just
kind of liking this idea. I'm going to take a look at this. Thank you for letting me know about this, Winnie.
I'm
Yeah.
here for you, Greg. I'm here for you.
I mean, just go out for the weekend or go for a few days and
Make sure
yeah.
to take your girlfriend. That was like she'll appreciate this. Man, you got to do two. You got to do a plus because
Yeah.
that'd be really fun. The two of you could go different places and film, try different excursions. Like you have some couples they go to the movie every weekend. You go like, maybe we'll just fly every weekend. Curtis is thinking about this now that he's listening to me talk about this. But yeah, I mean, I was just thinking who this would be perfect for, right? Let's say, for example, you have a child that's in college and happens to be, near a Frontier airport, and then the home is also like literally you could come home every weekend, like taking the bus.
It's pretty cool. All right. I'm going to be taking a look at that then definitely after this show. Thank you, Winnie. That's a fantastic way to end the show.
Oh, good. That's a great way to end the
that's
show.
fun.
Yeah, but thank you so much, Greg. That was so exciting, and it's great to see Artemis back and in business up in space. But yeah, Thanksgiving next week. Cray.
I know, right? Yeah, that's wild. But I really appreciate everybody joining in today too. Thank you so much for joining us as always. It's just so much fun to talk and chat with everybody and see everybody's comments. We just appreciate all of you who joined the show. Whether you're watching live or watching afterward, it's so much fun.
It's so much fun. And thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for being here with all of this. And like Greg always says, if you see anything fun on social or something that you're reading and you think that would be of interest to Greg or myself, definitely direct message us or post us or tweet us. Make sure just tag Greg at Greg Nibbler. You can tag me at Winnie Sun. We so appreciate when you do that. And I want to say a really huge thank you to Vicky Garvey. A special thank you to Vicky Garvey because this week she's just been so incredibly supportive of me personally on social media, and it doesn't come lightly to me. I really truly appreciate it. So thank you so much, Vicky, for doing that.
Thank you, Vicky.
Yeah, you are incredible. And of course, everybody else who's watching this show, thank you so much for all the support. I know Greg and I are we're going to keep doing this because we're really, I'm hoping Greg will keep doing this because really enjoying this process. And, but
100%.
Next week, we'll let you know, but I'm certain we'll be back the following week. So, if we don't talk to you before next week, we wanted to thank you from the In the Loop family. We want to thank all of you and wish you a happy Thanksgiving. And we want to take a moment and just thank you for being here for us.
Yeah, really appreciate everybody. So just it's so much fun doing this, and it's all because you're all tuning in and watching, and and hopefully we're all having fun together with it. But yeah, have a really great Thanksgiving if we don't talk to you next week.
Yes. And thank you so much. And thank you so much, Greg. And with that, catch us on social, tweet us, post us, whatever you need to do. We would love to see you more on social as well. So take care.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.